Why is this happening? Have these people given up on the world? Is it the unfolding of ancient prophecies, or is there something deeper, something hidden behind this mysterious disappearance? What we're witnessing with the so-called chosen is not just a social shift. It feels more like a signal, an enigma that challenges us to look beyond appearances. If they are vanishing, what does that mean for those of us who remain? When we say chosen, Neddy, we're not talking about some secret list or mystical seal. It's a way of describing a particular way of existing. These are people who notice what most overlook. It isn't magic, it's awareness, discernment, and often the courage to face uncomfortable truths. They share certain traits that make them stand out. The first is restlessness. Not the curiosity of wanting to learn a new fact, but a deeper dissatisfaction with easy answers and prepackaged explanations. They ask questions that disrupt boardrooms, family dinners, and casual chats in elevators, questions many would rather avoid. Another is sensitivity, not in the sense of weakness, but of perception. They see patterns, details, and connections others miss. They can sense when a story leaves out something crucial. They feel the weight of choices, ideas, and consequences with an intensity that can be both a gift and a burden. Feeling too much eventually exhausts them, and to protect themselves, they often step back. Independent thought is another marker. They don't follow trends just because everyone else does. They challenge arguments, test assumptions, and compare sources. This makes them uncomfortable company for those who thrive on conformity. Yet it also allows them to bring something genuinely new into the world, an idea, a work of art, a project no one else could have imagined. Their relationship with time is also unusual. Many of them seem ahead of the curve, speaking of cultural or social changes long before they become obvious. Some call them visionaries, others dismiss them as odd. They also prefer depth over reach, choosing meaningful conversations over viral popularity, substance over noise. While the mainstream rushes to expand and accelerate, they choose to slow down, refine, and focus. Practically, this often leads them into unconventional lifestyles. They may keep unusual schedules, prioritize reflection and experimentation, or seek smaller, more aligned communities. They may switch jobs or completely reinvent how they live. Outsiders often label them as isolated or wasting time. In reality, part of their so-called disappearance comes from choosing spaces where they can breathe and think freely. It's important to stress, not all chosen look the same. Some are pragmatic, others are dreamers. Some have strong support networks, others walk alone. What ties them together is a sense of inner responsibility, the belief that seeing differently obligates them to act, even in small ways. But when their vision finds no resonance, they face a choice: spend energy fighting endless battles or retreat. Retreat is not always defeat. Sometimes it is strategy, yet to outside eyes, stepping back looks like vanishing. Society also plays a role. Our structures, schools, companies, social platforms reward conformity. They don't deliberately erase the chosen, but they favor quick, simple, popular ideas over complex, challenging ones. Over time, constant friction pushes these individuals toward the margins. And here's the truth. Being chosen isn't a title. It's a way of seeing and engaging with the world. Anyone could embody it, you, someone you know. But because it's a way of being, it is fragile. Without support, it easily turns into burnout, discouragement, or withdrawal. That is why the disappearance is happening not through magic, but through exhaustion and disconnection. If you're still here listening, take a moment to leave your presence. Write something in the comments like, "I choose to awaken," or "I am still here." These aren't just words, they're reminders that you belong to this journey too. Because when we talk about the chosen disappearing, it's not always about vanishing from the world. Sometimes it's about fading quietly, slipping into silence until almost no one notices they're gone. It can begin with a single overlooked idea, a dismissed contribution, a voice ignored. Over time, silence becomes protection, but silence also becomes distance. From the outside, it looks like they've given up. In reality, it's self-preservation, and that is why we need to speak of them not only to explain their absence, but to remember their presence. In my view, the disappearance of the so-called chosen is not about people vanishing into thin air, but about a silent withdrawal from a world that often rejects what they have to offer. I believe these individuals see and feel things at a depth most people overlook. That sensitivity can be powerful, but it also comes with a cost. When their questions are dismissed, their insights ignored, and their way of living criticized, it's natural that many of them step back, seeking refuge in quieter, less hostile spaces. I don't see this as a mystical prophecy unfolding, but as a reflection of how society treats those who refuse to conform. The world tends to reward what is quick, simple, and easily packaged, while pushing aside those who insist on depth, complexity, and authenticity. That's why the chosen are harder to find today. They are not gone, just hidden, choosing different ways of existing. To me, this disappearance is a warning sign. It shows how easily a culture can lose some of its most insightful voices. And it makes me wonder, are we willing to create space for them to return? Or will we keep building systems that drive them further into silence? While most people are chasing likes, shares, and constant visibility, the so-called chosen often realize that fighting the tide isn't worth the cost. Their voices rarely travel as far as they should. Their ideas echo into silence. The internet, which once seemed like a space for expansion, has turned into a giant filter that pushes these messages to the margins. Their absence, then, isn't always a conscious decision. It's often a quiet exile, nudged along by systems that reward what is shallow, quick, and repeatable. Anything that asks for pause, depth, or reflection is quietly buried under noise. Those who keep reaching for more without realizing it get pushed further from the center of attention. It's like a transparent curtain between what is welcomed and what is not. The chosen live right on that edge. They don't actually vanish, but they slip out of sight, becoming invisible to the collective radar. This withdrawal is not just social, it's internal. Over time, even the person with a deeper vision starts to wonder if it's worth the fight, especially when they look around and see no one reflecting their way of thinking. That's how an invisible, exhausting process begins until, piece by piece, they fade from public view. And if this disappearance isn't only about exhaustion or loneliness, what else is at work? Here we come to the delicate part, the invisible forces shaping the world. We're not talking about fantasy or magic, but something quieter and more pervasive, a network of ideas, habits, and social patterns operating like an underground current. You don't see it directly, but you feel its pull. It favors repetition over change, comfort over difference, predictability over questioning. Whenever someone tries to break that cycle, they become an irritant, not because there's a mastermind plotting against them, but because the system was built to reject what disrupts its flow. Think of everyday life. In school, we're taught to answer, rarely to question. At work, we reward compliance, not courage. On social media, the quick and simple goes viral. The thoughtful and layered barely travels. This isn't neutral, it's a filter. And in that filter, the chosen are always the first to slip through the cracks. But there's another dimension to this hidden force. It also works inside the mind. When someone sensitive and restless starts to feel they don't fit, that awareness itself becomes a weight. The individual begins to feel displaced, strange, out of place, almost as if their own mind has been colonized by the belief that there is no room for them in the world. This is the most dangerous mechanism, when the external force becomes internal, when someone starts dimming from the inside long before disappearing on the outside. Add to that the invisible pressure of the collective. The majority doesn't have to persecute the different. It's enough to ignore them, mock them, or dismiss their ideas. That's all it takes to silence voices. This force has no face, no name, but it's there in every dismissive laugh, every closed door, every moment when someone chooses not to listen. And if you watch closely, you'll see this hidden current acting not only against individuals, but also against groups, innovations, and any movement that dares to think differently. It's like a social field of energy that keeps everything in place. The more powerfully it acts, the harder it is to notice, because it wears the mask of normality. We start believing this is just the way things are, when in fact we're inside a pattern we didn't consciously choose. Those who see beyond that layer, the chosen, are pushed out because they reveal the cracks in the system, show that normality isn't really normal at all. Their disappearance then isn't just a personal tragedy. It's also a reflection of the hidden forces that organize the world. And here's the paradox. We often imagine that these individuals carry some advantage. Seeing further, sensing what others can't, sounds like a gift. But few consider the weight that comes with it. Carrying a purpose isn't light. It's feeling every day that there's something more to be done, something urgent to be said, something larger to bring into the world. That burning sense of mission, which could be inspiring, often becomes a burden when the surrounding world isn't ready or willing to hear it. Imagine having a flame inside you, but living where no one notices the fire. That contrast creates loneliness. This weight shows up in small, daily choices. It's not just deciding what to do, but constantly asking, am I on the right path? Am I doing what I'm supposed to? This internal questioning never stops. It becomes an invisible pressure, a constant reminder of a mission that feels impossible. Many chosen push themselves so hard, feel so deeply, that they become exhausted not only from the external world, but from the awareness of something bigger than themselves. There's also emotional isolation. How do you share this feeling? How do you explain to someone that you're carrying a responsibility you never asked for but can't put down? Few understand, fewer listen without dismissing it as exaggeration. In that vacuum of understanding, the chosen grow quiet. Holding it in only increases the load. Their purpose seeps into their bodies, showing up as physical fatigue, restless nights, a constant sense of being on alert. It's not rare to find them anxious or exhausted for reasons that aren't obvious to anyone else. And perhaps the strangest part, this weight comes without a manual, no roadmap, no certainty about the next step. It's like walking in the dark, trying to find an exit, not only for yourself, but for many others who don't even realize they're trapped. That's the paradox. Purpose should bring clarity, but often it breeds more doubt. It should give strength, but often it causes exhaustion. That's why so many chosen step back, not because they've given up, but because they haven't yet found a way to carry the weight they hold. Finally, we can't ignore the system itself. And by system, I don't just mean governments or corporations or the internet. I mean the sum of all the structures, rules, and ideas shaping how we live. It wasn't designed by one person, but it behaves as if it has its own will to maintain order, routine, and above all, control. And control doesn't need bars or chains. The most effective control makes people think they're choosing, when in reality, they're simply following a pre-carved path. This is where the chosen clash with the machinery. They are the ones who question the pattern, who look at routine and ask, is this all there is? They see that some rules exist not to protect, but to limit, that some structures are built not for the common good, but to ensure a few hold power over the many. The system doesn't need to silence them by force. It only needs to marginalize, discredit, and label strange, radical, irrelevant. That's the subtlest form of control, turning the voice of difference into background noise until no one listens. The system also controls through distraction. While the chosen try to bring deeper reflections, the system floods the space with entertainment, endless news, and information avalanches. It's like trying to send out a low, steady frequency in the middle of a deafening storm. Another tactic is speed. Everything must be done fast, work fast, produce fast, consume fast. But awareness, reflection, and transformation are slow processes. And when someone refuses to run at the same pace, they're seen as unproductive, out of the game. This mechanism isn't new. Throughout history, every time someone or some group tried to introduce deep change, they met resistance. But now, control is more sophisticated, not by brute force, but through distraction, exhaustion, and overload. And here lies the heart of it. The chosen don't disappear only out of personal fragility or choice. They disappear because the system itself creates the perfect conditions for their fading. From a spiritual perspective, I don't see the disappearance of the chosen as a loss, but as a deeper calling. What looks like silence or retreat on the outside may in fact be a sacred preparation on the inside. These individuals are not gone. They are being refined, strengthened, and separated from the noise, so that when the time is right, their voices will carry even greater weight. To me, the hidden forces pushing against them are not only obstacles but also tests, meant to strip away illusions and reveal what is truly unshakable. The burden they carry, the solitude they endure, all of it shapes them into vessels of clarity. And while the world may not yet be ready for their message, the moment will come when their presence can no longer be ignored. So spiritually, I see this disappearance as a paradox. It is both withdrawal and awakening, both loss and preparation. The chosen are not fading away. They are aligning with something higher, waiting for the precise moment when their light will be needed most.